person is your best friend. Okay, now I don't know if you have one or multiple, but just think of this person, okay? Now, I also want you to think, has this person ever done something to get on your nerves maybe? Ever done something to annoy you? Or maybe the other way around, have you ever done something to annoy them? Or let them down? Tonight we're going to be looking at the person of Jesus and the fact that he never lets us down, guys. Like, he is the perfect human. He was 100% God, but he was 100% human. And while sure he was this healer, he was a miracle worker, that's not what he was doing 100% of his time, right? He was here on earth developing relationships and building friendships, right? So as we're kind of diving in tonight, I'm going to summarize the first 6 verses for us real quick. So obviously Jesus was that miracle worker, healer, but he wasn't doing that 24/7 like I said. Jesus had a couple friends. 3 of those we're going to be talking about: Mary, Martha, and Lazarus. Okay, now at some point in Jesus' ministry, Lazarus had become very, very sick to the point where he ends up dying. Now, when Martha and Mary get word of this, and by the way, Martha, Mary, and Lazarus, they're all siblings, okay? So Martha and Mary get word that Lazarus is dying, right? So they send a message to Jesus, and they say, Jesus, I know that you're a healer. I know that you're a miracle worker. Would you come and move for us in the life of Lazarus? Would you give him life again? But Jesus' response to this might be a little different than you would expect. You see, Jesus gets this message, but he decides to stay where he is for 2 more days, right? So then, jumping in at verse 7, says this: Finally, he said to his disciples, let's go back to Judea. But his disciples objected. Rabbi, they said, only a few days ago, the people in Judea were trying to stone you. Are you going there again? And Jesus replied, there are 12 hours of daylight every day. During the day, people can walk safely. They can see because they have the light of this world. But at night, there is danger of stumbling because they have no light. Then he said, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but now I will go wake him up. The disciples said, Lord, if he is sleeping, he will soon get better. They thought that Jesus meant that Lazarus was simply sleeping, but Jesus meant that Lazarus had died. So he told them plainly, Lazarus is dead. Now, I don't know if you guys had much of a childhood or enjoyed elementary school, but who liked recess in elementary school? Yeah? Recess was it, right? Okay, one of my favorite games to play while at recess was tag. Any tag fans? You guys play tag? Okay. If you guys haven't for some reason, there's a couple simple rules to this game, right? There's one person who's it, and then everybody else isn't, okay? Sometimes you can throw in extra rules. You can say, hey, there's no tag backs, or hey, this spot is base. You can't tag me here, right? So for me, in elementary school, I was like, yo, I got the system figured out, okay? I got this thing figured out so well that I can't lose. If I was up here, I wouldn't have taken that L, right? But apparently some guys are okay with that at one point. Can't stand you guys. Okay, but back to this, the tag. I wouldn't leave the base because why go somewhere that you're vulnerable, right? And I think me and the disciples have the same mindset in this, right? The disciples say, Rabbi, only a few days ago, the people in Judea were trying to stone you. Are you going there again? They're saying, Jesus, why would you go somewhere that you're vulnerable to attack? But, thank God that Jesus doesn't have the same mindset as me playing tag in elementary school or the disciples in this situation. You see, Jesus is the type of friend who's willing to step out of his comfort zone so that the ones he loves can stay in theirs, right? Jesus is saying, I don't care what it takes. I don't care if it takes my life. I'm willing to step into an uncomfortable situation for the sake of my friends. And that's exactly what he does in this story. But that's also what he does for us. You see, Jesus went and died on a cross, the most uncomfortable thing that you could ever do, died the most gruesome death possibly imaginable, right? And he did that for us. But I don't want you guys to hear that Jesus did this for us so we can stay in our comfort zone, right? Jesus isn't saying, I did this for you so you can stay where you are. Jesus is saying, I did this for you, so now you go do it for somebody else, right? Jesus hasn't called us to stay in our comfort zones. Honestly, I think this is a call for us to jump out of our comfort zones, right? In verse 9 and 10, it says, there are 12 hours of daylight every day. During the day, people can walk safely. They can see because they have the light of this world. But at night, there is danger of stumbling because they have no light. Now, imagine if I told every single one of you in this room to go to that side of the room, and then I were to shut off all the lights, okay? And then I stuck chairs just everywhere where you couldn't really see them. And I said, I want you guys to pass from that side of the room all the way to the other without tripping over anything, without hitting a chair, without stumbling over any obstacle that's in your way, right? Odds are you wouldn't be able to do it. But say I were to give even one of you a flashlight, some source of light that you would be able to see with, right? You would be able to not only guide yourself to where you can navigate the path and get to the objective, but you'd be able to lead others as well. You'd say, hey guys, I have this source of light. Let me guide you through this path. And I think that's exactly the same thing that's going on here. Jesus is saying but at night there's danger of stumbling because they have no light, right? But God has given us a source of light, and that's His Word, right? He's given it to us so that we can navigate our lives. When we come across path roads and we don't know where to go, we can turn to the Word of God, right? But not only for us, we can say to our friends who may be lost and say, I have this source of light, and I think I can help you in this situation that you may be going through. We just have to be willing to step out of our comfort zone to help them through that situation. So then we'll continue back in the scripture. In verse 17, it says this: when Jesus arrived at Bethany, he was told that Lazarus had already been in his grave for 4 days. Now I'm going to stop here real quick and kind of explain this, but during this time, Jews believed that after somebody had died, their spirit would kind of hover around and linger for around 3 days, and then it would hit town, right? Just in case there was some miraculous thing that the spirit would come back into the body and the person would resurrect, right? So Jesus, I think intentionally, the 2 days that he stayed where he was, I don't think that was an accident, right? So now Lazarus has been in his grave for 4 days. So we'll remember that for in a little bit, but I continue. Bethany was only a few miles down the road from Jerusalem, and many of the people had come to console Martha and Mary in their loss. When Martha got word that Jesus was... I don't like that. That might be better. No, not better. Is that better? No? I'm sorry, guys. Oh, thanks, guys. Okay. I think we're good now. All right. It's dangling. You guys are the worst. Okay, whatever. We're going to continue with that. We're just going to make it happen. Okay, but continuing in this passage, Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if only you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now, I know that God will give you whatever you ask. And Jesus told her, your brother will rise again. Yes, Martha said, he will rise when everyone else rises at the last day. Jesus told her, I am the resurrection and the life. Anyone who believes in me will live, even after dying. Anyone who lives in me and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this, Martha? Yes, Lord, she said. I have always believed you are the Messiah, the Son of God, the one who has come into the world from God. Then she returned to Mary. She called Mary. Yeah, I'll take that. That's better. Okay. Check. Hello, microphone. Checking. If the sound is working. It's on? It's on. Check. There we go. Gosh, this is hard. Okay. Okay, so Jesus had stayed outside the village at the place where Martha met him. When the people who were at the house consoling Mary saw her leave so hastily, they assumed she was going to Lazarus' grave to weep. So they followed her there. When Mary arrived and saw Jesus, she fell at his feet and said, "Lord, if only you had been here, my brother would not have died." Now, if you notice this, both sisters come running to Jesus with the same response, right? But I believe that there's two completely different perspectives that they bring, right? They say, "Lord, if only you had been here, my brother would not have died." But Martha comes with the emphasis on, "God, but I still believe that you will make a way and you will do what needs to be done." Whereas Mary is in this point of, "I just lost my brother and I just need to cry right now. I just need to let it out and fall at your feet," right? You see, they say they understand the fact that Jesus is that miracle worker and he's that healer that we talked about earlier. But that's not the type of friend that I think Jesus needed to be in this position or in this situation, right? You see, Jesus isn't always the friend that you think you need. So Jesus doesn't always show up when you think he should, right? In this situation, Mary and Martha would have said, "You should have been here 2 days ago," but Jesus wasn't there, right? And I think we do this in our lives as well. We say, "Lord, if only you had been here, my parents would still be together." Or, "Lord, if only you had been here, my friend would still be here." Or, "I would have made the team," or, "my friends would care about me." And even though you think Jesus isn't there in those situations, I can promise you that he is, but just not in the way that you might think, right? And I don't know what that reason is that Jesus, you thought wasn't there in that situation in your life. Like, I don't know what that reason is, but I can tell you that it's so much greater than anything you or I could ever imagine, right? You see, in the story, Mary and Martha are seeing 5 feet in front of them. They see, my brother is dead, but Jesus is late, right? Where Jesus has this bird's eye view of this like perspective from heaven. And he says, no, there's order in this. Where you see chaos, I see organization, right? And they can understand that Jesus is more than just a healer and miracle worker, right? Jesus is a friend. And that's kind of what their eyes are being opened up to in this situation. You see, there's more to Jesus than what our minds could ever be wrapped around, right? So we'll continue reading in the passage. Starting in verse 33, it says this: "When Jesus saw her weeping and saw the other people wailing with her, a deep anger welled up within him, and he was deeply troubled. 'Where have you put him?' he asked them. They told him, 'Lord, come and see.' Then Jesus wept. The people who were standing nearby said, 'See how much he loved him?' But some said, 'This man healed a blind man. Couldn't he have kept Lazarus from dying?' Jesus was still angry as he arrived at the tomb. A cave with a stone rolled across its entrance. 'Roll the stone aside,' Jesus told them. But Martha, the dead man's sister, protested, 'Lord, he has been in there for 4 days. The smell will be terrible.'" Right? And this is that same idea that Martha is portraying to Jesus, that he's too far gone, right? Like it's going to smell bad, and I don't know if it's worth it, right? But we continue. Jesus responded, "Didn't I tell you that you would see God's glory if you believe?" So they rolled the stone aside. Then Jesus looked up to heaven and said, "Father, thank you for hearing me. You always hear me, but I said it out loud for the sake of all these people standing here, so that they would believe you sent me." Then Jesus shouted, "Lazarus, come out." And the dead man came out, his hands and feet bound in grave clothes, his face wrapped in a headcloth. And Jesus told them, "Unwrap him and let him go." You see, throughout this story, I think Jesus is required to be a different type of friend to all 3 of these siblings, right? But it's almost the same, because Jesus meets them all exactly where they are. For Martha, it's running after Jesus, saying, "Jesus, I trust you with what you're going to do next." For Mary, it's in a hard place in her life where she just lost her brother and she just needs a friend to hold, right? Just needs somebody to comfort her. And for Lazarus, it's literally meeting him at his grave, where he's bound by these grave clothes with a stone rolled in front of the tomb. right? So Jesus is always the friend that meets you exactly where you are. And it's the same exact way in our spiritual lives too, guys. Right? So maybe we take the stance of Martha where we say, like, I'm spiritually on fire. I'm running after Jesus and knowing that he's going to do whatever's best in my life. And Jesus is there. He's there to say, yes, I'm going to do what's best for you and what's going to give God glory. Right? And that we may not understand that the first time he says that to us, right? Right? In the same way that Martha didn't really understand what he meant when Jesus said that her brother would rise again, right? And then looking at Mary, we could be in a broken place in our lives, and we're just crying out to Jesus because we're going through a hard time. And Jesus is there. Jesus is there to mourn with us. He's there to comfort us in those hard times. And maybe we take the stance of Lazarus, where we say, we're bound by the things that aren't meant to define us, right? Sometimes in our lives we can be defined by things that Jesus isn't called us to be defined by, right? And Jesus is there as well. But you see, this situation where Lazarus finds himself, and where we can find ourselves sometimes, Jesus is there. He's right outside the tomb, and he's calling to us. He's saying, Lazarus, come out, right? But we just have to be listening, right? In this story, Lazarus has two voices that he could be listening to. He has the voice of Mary saying, Jesus, he's been in there for 4 days. Like, he's going to stink when he comes out here. Or like, when we open this up, it's going to stink. Like, he's too far gone. And I don't think there's any hope for that soul, right? But we also have the voice of Jesus saying, Lazarus, come out. He's saying he's not defined by his past. He's defined by me. He's defined by who I say he is. Right? And we can't be a friend like Jesus is calling us to be in this passage if we're living in the tomb. Right? We can't love with the love of Jesus if we're allowing our lives to be defined by something that's not him. And I think most of us can take the place of Lazarus where we're defined by the things of this world. And my question to you is, what grave is that? What grave is Jesus trying to call you out of? Is it comparison? Is it saying, oh, they have more followers than me, they have more friends, they're more popular? Or is it athletics? Saying, I need to make this sports team to be able to prove myself to my friends? Or is it academics? Saying, I need to get this grade in this class to prove that I'm good enough for my parents, right? And sure, you may say, Corban, I don't think I really resonate with that. I think I'm more in the shoes of Martha. Like, I'm spiritually on fire right now, right? And my question to you is, who is Jesus putting on your heart to call out of their grave, right? Because just like this shirt says, and like you guys should probably pick this up because it's restocked tomorrow. But like just like this shirt says, this whole Jesus thing is all about relationships, right? We can't do this together. It takes one another guiding each other with the word of God through life. It takes one another calling each other out of graves, right? We can't do this on our own. So, in all, it doesn't matter where you are in life. Jesus is the type of friend who will meet you exactly where you are. You just have to be listening to the right voice. And would you pray with me? Dear God, thank you so much for allowing us all to be here today and just be able to dive into your word together. God, I pray for our boldness as we go out, God, that we wouldn't be called to stay in our comfort zones, God, because you haven't called us to stay there either. God, that I thank you for your son, Jesus, that he was able to step out of his comfort zone so that we would be able to step out of ours. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.